We had only just moved into the house on Alder Street, and at first, everything about it felt ordinary, quiet, a little old, but nothing unsettling. I remember thinking how still it was compared to our last place. Milo seemed fine too, at least until that first night. I found him in the hallway, completely frozen, staring up into the corner near the ceiling like something had caught his full attention. His body was stiff, his fur slightly raised, his eyes wide and unblinking. I tried calling him, even clapping to break his focus, but he didn't respond at all. It wasn't like him. Milo usually ignored things, not fixated on them. I followed his gaze, expecting to see a spider, a crack, anything, but there was nothing there. Just an empty corner. Still, Milo stayed locked onto it like something invisible had just walked into our home before we did. Over the next few days, that strange behavior didn't stop, it grew worse. Milo kept returning to that exact spot in the hallway, sometimes sitting perfectly still, other times reacting suddenly, as if whatever he saw had moved. His head would turn slowly, tracking something I couldn't see, his ears twitching, his body low like he was ready to either chase or run. The house itself began to feel different too. It wasn't loud, but it wasn't quiet anymore either. There were soft sounds at night, light tapping behind the walls, faint creaks above the ceiling, like footsteps carefully shifting weight. I tried to explain it away, telling myself it was just the house settling, but that explanation didn't match the way Milo reacted. He wasn't curious. He was alert. Watching. Waiting. I couldn't ignore it forever, so one evening I decided to sit in the hallway with him and see what he saw. At first, nothing happened. The air felt still, almost too still, like the house was holding its breath. Then Milo's posture changed instantly. His body tensed, and his eyes snapped toward the staircase. I followed his gaze, staring into the empty space between the steps. For a brief second, something shifted, not a shape exactly, but a distortion, like the air itself had been disturbed. It flickered and disappeared so quickly I almost convinced myself I imagined it. But Milo didn't move. He began slowly backing away, his eyes locked forward, his breathing shallow. That was the moment I realized this wasn't random behavior. Milo wasn't reacting to nothing. He was reacting to something that simply didn't want to be seen. After that night, the house didn't feel like ours anymore. It felt shared. Milo stopped entering certain areas completely, especially my bedroom. No matter how much I called him, he wouldn't cross the doorway. Instead, he would sit just outside, staring in with a low, uneasy sound that didn't even sound like a normal meow. Inside the room, things started to feel wrong. Small changes at first, objects slightly out of place, my chair turned just enough to notice, the window left open when I knew I had shut it. Then came the nights. I would wake up suddenly, not from noise, but from the feeling that I wasn't alone. One night, lying still in the dark, I heard it clearly, breathing. Slow, steady breathing that didn't match mine. I didn't dare move. Outside the door, Milo scratched desperately, over and over, like he was trying to warn me, or trying to keep something trapped inside. Sleep became impossible after that. Even with the lights on, the room didn't feel safer. The shadows seemed heavier, like they weren't just caused by light but had weight to them, pooling in corners and along the walls. Milo refused to come inside completely now. He would sit in the hallway, staring directly into my room, his body tense, his eyes wide and fixed on one point. One night, I forced myself to follow his gaze. I stared into the same spot for what felt like forever, until finally, I noticed it, a faint shift near the closet. It wasn't solid. It didn't have a clear form. But it was there, bending the space around it in a way that didn't make sense. And then, slowly, it moved. Not sudden or aggressive, just a deliberate adjustment, like it was aware I had finally noticed it. That quiet movement felt worse than anything loud or violent. It meant it had always been there, waiting. By then, I couldn't pretend anymore. Something was in the house, and Milo had known from the start. I tried to tell my parents, but they brushed it off, saying I was stressed from the move, that old houses make noises. But noises don't watch you. Milo stayed close to me whenever we were outside the bedroom, calmer there, like whatever it was couldn't follow, or chose not to. One afternoon, I came home and immediately felt something was off. My bedroom door was wide open. Milo was gone. Panic set in instantly. I called his name, my voice echoing too loudly in the quiet house. Then I heard it, a faint scratching sound coming from inside the closet. Slow. Uneven. I hesitated, every instinct telling me not to open it. But I did. The moment the door cracked open, Milo exploded out past me, his fur raised, his body trembling, and he didn't stop running until he reached the far end of the house. That night, I refused to go back into my room. I stayed in the living room with Milo pressed tightly against me, his body still tense, his ears alert to every sound. Hours passed in silence until, sometime around midnight, we both heard it. A slow dragging noise from the hallway. Not loud, not fast, just steady, like something moving with intention. It came closer, stopping just outside the living room entrance. Milo lifted his head and stared directly toward it, completely still. I didn't look. I couldn't. The air felt colder, heavier, like the space between us and the hallway was no longer empty. It stayed there for a long moment, unmoving, before the sound slowly retreated back down the hall toward my bedroom. Milo didn't relax fully after that, and neither did I. Because now I understood the truth, whatever was in that house wasn't passing through. It had settled in. And somehow, it knew we were aware of it.